recording. Welcome to those of you who are watching me on YouTube. This is also a Clubhouse room. So if you see me looking, I have my phone positioned right here. So if you see me looking here, I'm looking at my Clubhouse people. And this is a room about a topic that someone requested that I speak about, which is, she asked if I would tell my story for transitioning from one-on-one work to group work, and then just to give some best practices. If you have been contemplating the idea of switching from one-on-one to group work, or even just incorporating group work into your practice, this will give you some ideas and some things I wish I would have known from the start. So the reason I do group work instead of one-on-one work, I actually had the idea to do group work at the very start of my hypnosis career. When I became a hypnotist, I was already starting, now that I'm saying this, I'm not totally sure this is true. I think that I was already contemplating the idea of what if group hypnosis could work. I didn't know if it could, but I had watched stage hypnotists hypnotize a group of people on stage. And the entire way through my training, I was kind of thinking, what if this could work in a group session? But when I started out, I started with one-on-ones, and I'll dive into that. But the thing I want to call to your attention, the reason that I started doing group work is because I learned years ago, and I think the first person that I remember introducing this concept to me was Tim Ferriss. And I think Tony Robbins also says the same thing. I think they both have said the same thing. And that is that the quality of our life is determined by the quality of our questions. And when we are looking to improve some area of our life, we need to pay attention to the underlying assumptions on the path that we're seeking. And so many people in the hypnosis community said you should never try to hypnotize someone over Skype. And they said Skype because people didn't even know what Zoom was when I started doing hypnosis. It existed, but very few people knew about it. And they said, oh, hypnosis can't work over Skype. What if somebody abreacts, which for anyone who doesn't know what that word means, it basically means if somebody freaks out and has a panic attack while they're on camera because they're working on healing from some past trauma, which I believe is a non-issue, and hopefully I'll remember. I'm going to put that in my notes so I remember to touch on that later. So as I was training, before I became a hypnotist, the question I was asking myself as a hairstylist who had to be standing behind the chair working on somebody's hair to make money, I started asking myself, what if I can make an excellent living without trading dollars for hours? So this is, the one-on-one session model. You make money based on being with one person for one allotment of time. Your one-on-one sessions might be an hour or any length of time. And I had started to I think it was probably Tim Ferriss reading his book, The 4-Hour Work Week years ago, that just had me start thinking outside the box. And so that was my first question, is what if I can make an excellent living without trading dollars for hours? And my second question is, how can I make that excellent living being location independent? Because I so badly wanted to travel. I had traveled very little in my life, and it was something I'd been dreaming of doing since I was a little girl. I did not know how difficult travel would be in the past couple of years, but I wanted to find something I could do while traveling, and that eliminates the idea of needing to do in-person sessions. So right from the get-go, as I was going through my hypnosis trainings and I was learning from the best of the best, which is Mike Mandel. I think that Mike Mandel's training is the best. I also think that Freddie and Anthony Jacquin's training is the best. They're all the best of the best. And as I was going through the training, every time I would watch a video in the video training, or when I was training in person in Toronto, I would ask myself, how could I make this work over Zoom? Because I did know about Zoom. And I would start thinking, what if this could work in a group setting? I think initially I was just thinking about doing the Zoom work because the idea of doing it in a group was really intimidating to me. So many of us, if you're a new hypnotist, it's so intimidating to take these trainings and then think, oh my gosh, am I actually going to try this in person? What if it doesn't work? And all these scary what ifs. So when I started opening myself up to the idea of doing group sessions, I first tested, the idea with a free group. So I did an 8-week free group session. I've talked about this on other clubhouses, so I won't go too in depth on that. But I know that people don't really value what they don't pay for. There are very, very few exceptions, but that is the rule, that people aren't going to place a lot of value on what they pay for. But I was unwilling to charge for group sessions until I knew they could actually be beneficial for people. So I did an 8-week experiment and I made people jump through a big hoop. So I made them pay with an investment of their time and energy by filling out an extensive intake form. And I'm pretty sure I have a Clubhouse here and a YouTube video that talks about the intake form. And I give you that intake form inside that replay, wherever you're watching this video. And it probably took them at least a good 20-30 minutes to fill out. And so they were committed. And most of the people in that program, even though they didn't pay, they went through all 8 weeks and they showed up every week. And it was like the coolest experience. And there are still people reaching out to me from that session, that series of sessions that I did 5 years ago now, that are saying that changed my life. And I still am experiencing this, this transformation that happened during that time is still radiating through my life and causing positive benefits. So it really validated for me that group sessions worked well, but I was still doing one-on-one sessions as well. And I'm going to guess it was about 18 months ago, a friend of mine named David Bennett, who is, I think he's in my Transy Tuesdays, and I'll talk more about what Transy Tuesdays is in a moment. But he mentioned a book called The Power of 8 by Lynn McTaggart. And I immediately ordered it, like as soon as I got off the call, because he told me that it is basically a scientific experiment about the power of a group coming together with a shared intention. And there's so much documented data in there about what happens when a group of people gets together with a shared intention, the magic that happens. It's just crazy. And it's something that we can't necessarily explain. We don't know how it works. But after I read that book, I immediately turned off my one-on-one sessions. I'm like, now that I understand how effective group work is, I'm not doing one-on-one sessions anymore. Because to be honest, and I feel bad admitting this, but I do not enjoy one-on-one sessions. I'm an introvert and it's interesting because the definition of an introvert is someone who finds energy in alone time, and that is very much me, and who tends to be drained in a group setting. But there is something about like the intensity of a one-on-one session where you're working with one person that can be really draining for me as a person who is also very empathic and really can take on those feelings. And yet in group work, I am so energized by that group. And it's like I soak up their energy and their positive intentions. And I do group sessions now once per week in Transy Tuesdays, and that is my favorite. Like Transy Tuesdays is the highlight of my week. And I know there's several people in here who attend those, and it's the highlight of your week as well. So I'm going to share now some best practices, some of the things that I wish I would have known when learning how to do group sessions and do them well. And I'm always looking I don't want to ever rest on on the way that I'm doing it now. I want to always be improving and getting better and better, even though people really love the way I'm doing it now. That sounds really arrogant, but it's true. People love them. So the first thing I want to call to your attention is if you want to do group sessions, I've had so many people say, and I have thought this myself, well, if I want to do group sessions, I need to get a little bit more practice doing one-on-one sessions first. And I want to present the idea that you're going to get better at doing the thing that you want to do by doing that thing. So you're not going to get better at group work by doing one-on-one sessions. You'll get better at it by asking yourself empowering questions and saying, okay, how could I apply this technique that I've learned in the context of one-on-one work? How could I apply this in a group session? And this could even work, like I've done the Elman induction in a group session and on Zoom. So the Elman induction involves touch. There's a portion of the session where you pick their their hand up and you have them plop their wrist down like a wet rag. And you can guide an entire group to just imagine that I'm right there and hold your wrist up. Pretend that you can feel my fingers holding each side of your wrist. And in a moment, I'm going to count to 3. And I want you just to imagine that I let go and your hand flops down like a wet dish rag. So, so much of effective, like doing effective group sessions has to do with just putting yourself out there, experimenting, being brave, and setting an intention for transformation. So another best practice, and again, this is something I've shared on other rooms, so I won't go too in depth, but one of the most important part of any session is the prep that you do before that session starts. So it is, I will stand off to the side of my desk where I'm going to do my session. And I do most of my sessions at my standing desk while standing up. I'm actually at my standing desk while sitting on a bouncy ball right now. But I will usually stand up because you bring a different energy when you stand up. And if you can't stand up, that's okay. But just make sure you're sitting with a good posture and bringing lots of energy to the session. But before I ever start, I stand back and I just look at the spot where I'm going to sit and I imagine myself, or where I'm going to stand, and I imagine myself speaking clearly and speaking eloquently. I imagine this almost like this infinity symbol that's going between me and my computer monitor that represents all the people on that call. And I just imagine magic happening. I imagine transformation happening. I imagine that as I speak, and I don't think about everything I'm going to say, I just imagine that as I speak, that my words land in exactly the way that they're supposed to land, even if I stumble over my words, which I do. I've demonstrated that already on this presentation. And I imagine just the people on the call just lighting up. I imagine their body language changing as they take on this magic and transformation. And then I'll imagine getting emails afterwards where people say, that session changed my life. That was so amazing. Thank you so much. And by imagining the outcome, instead of micromanaging the process and figuring out exactly how you're going to do all of this, by imagining the outcome and the final result that you want, you tune your unconscious mind to pick up on the unconscious cues of the people on the call and to pick up on whatever energy is behind the intent that you set at the start of that session. And you are so much more likely to speak the words that need to be spoken, to shift gears if it's appropriate to shift gears, to just tune in and calibrate, which means just to be paying attention to what's happening on the call and adjust accordingly. So that's the first most important part of any session is what you do to prepare. And this is not like micromanaging your notes. This isn't making sure you have the perfect presentation put together, because imperfect consistent action is going to skyrocket you ahead so much more quickly than waiting until all your ducks are in a row until you have the perfect presentation. I recommend that you get started immediately if this is something you're intrigued about. The next key to success has to do with the power of 8. And I would do an icebreaker each time. So I start all of my sessions with just a short little, I call it an icebreaker, but it's really like a heart knitter. It knits our hearts together, KNIT. And it just makes us feel so connected. And that connection is key in receiving the transformation that people seek. And so the quickest way for me to demonstrate this is to walk you through it. And this is going to be weird for you watching me on YouTube. I double dare you to do this with me while you watch. And those of you in Clubhouse, if you would just do this and just trust, like, everybody here in this Clubhouse room is doing this with us, and just use this opportunity to see what would happen if you expect a miracle from what's about to take place. So what I'd like you to do is just bring your hands to your heart, if you're able to, if you're not driving or anything. You don't need to close your eyes. You can if you would like. And just be here now. Notice the way your hand feels against your chest. Notice the rhythm of your breathing. Notice the sensation of being supported by the surface beneath you. Notice the temperature of the air on your skin. And I'd like you just to imagine that there is a beautiful, radiant light above your head. And that as you breathe, every inhale draws that light down from the top of your head, down, down, down to the soles of your feet. And as you exhale, that light is diffused through the entire body, just your body circulating light. So that with each inhale, you breathe in more light to the point that your body becomes so full of light that you are radiating light. If someone were to look at you right now, you would be absolutely glowing. And as you feel this, I want you to imagine that all of that light could be condensed in the center of your chest, in that heart space. And then I'd like you to imagine that you could just step into the room with one person here on this Clubhouse call. And if you're on YouTube, just think about one person that you love, maybe somebody that you've been praying for and somebody who needs some extra love. Just imagine that you could step into the room with that person right now and send this beam of light from your heart to their heart. And just imagine that you could see them receiving that. See their posture changing. Notice their breathing relax. Notice them just taking on the peace of this moment. And if you're here in Clubhouse, I want you to imagine that all of us chose you, that we are all sending you love from our heart to yours. We're standing around you and just feel that light. If you're on YouTube, just feel the light of this love. And now I just invite you to think to yourself, I am here. And it is good. And now I'd like you just to think about something in your life that has been bothering you. And I want you to imagine that you could send light into that situation, that you could send light to your future self when they're in that situation, so that when you get to that place, you feel the light of this love and the light of all the people who have ever watched this YouTube video, who have ever listened to the replay of this Clubhouse room. And when you're ready, you can just bring your hands down and relax. Open your eyes if they're closed. One of the things that the book, The Power of Eight, revealed is that this awesomeness does not know time or space. So even someone watching the video and maybe it's had 10,000 views, even though most of my videos don't get 10,000 views, they will soon. Knowing that you can receive the light of every person who has watched this video, every person who has brought their hands to their heart in this way. And this is the reason why I believe that group sessions, I used to say, can be more powerful than one-on-one sessions, but I think that hurts some people's feelings who really like one-on-one sessions. I'm just going to say it. I think they're more powerful. Have you ever been to a group gathering where there was just this energy in the air and there was this, something about just sharing space with people who were all there for the same reason? For me, I grew up in a crazy church where people would dance in the aisles and they would clap and they would, sing. And there was something about that energy that just felt transformative. Or it could be, if you think of a Tony Robbins conference or any kind of a group where you have ever gone and just felt inspired and motivated. And I really believe that there is powerful healing juju in situations like that. When you can ride on the intention of others, even if you don't believe it that much for yourself, you can see other people stepping into the incredible healing transformations that are taking place on a call and take them on for yourself. So when I glance over at my notes, I see the one thing that I haven't touched on is this ab reaction thing. People tend to really, that's one of the first things I hear about when I say that I do group hypnosis sessions. I'll say, what if someone ab reacts? And so again, an ab reaction is anytime a person, just to put it in layman's terms, freaks out And, oftentimes as healers, as change workers, we know that to help someone experience a better future moving forward, it can be, useful to go into the past and heal something from the past. And sometimes when we go into the past, that person might start to feel as if they are there. They might start to have a little bit of a panic attack. They might start to cry. And some people consider crying an abreaction. Some don't. I really don't. So one of the most beautiful and effective ways to ensure that a person doesn't experience an unpleasant abreaction is during that icebreaker. When you have everyone bring their hands to their heart, you're creating an anchor to something beautiful. For me, even doing this now, like I feel so amazing when I bring my hands to my heart like this, because I do it every week in Trancy Tuesdays with this group of people who is like a family to me. And anytime I need extra strength, I can bring my hands to my heart and I have this anchor to strength and peace. So you can let them know during the icebreaker, this is a safe space. Anything that happens here is going to be pleasant. It's going to be life affirming. It's going to be a beautiful experience. And during that situation, you're using essentially hypnotic suggestions to help them know this is going to be pleasant. This is going to be safe. This is going to be a beautiful experience. And that eliminates the odds of an abreaction. If a person does abreact, and I will say this has never happened on any of my calls, and I have done thousands at this point. I mean, I'm going through my mind to make sure that's true. I don't know if that's true. I've done hundreds and hundreds at this point. And I do have people cry on my calls, and I see that as a beautiful thing. I see that as a time of cleansing, a time of healing. And the people who cry on my calls will say the same thing later, that gave them a really powerful experience. But if a person ever does abreact, if you have them adjust their 3 Bs, they will immediately step out of that abreaction. The reason a person abreacts is because they are going back into a place of trauma. They are associating in, and I talk about this in other rooms and videos. They are feeling that emotion from the past as if they are really there right now. The unconscious mind doesn't know the difference between something we are actually experiencing and something we're vividly imagining. So when a person is vividly imagining a past trauma, they're seeing it as if they are there, seeing it through their own eyes. They're hearing it as if they're there. They are feeling it as if they're there. And maybe the reason you're actually even listening to this presentation right now is because what I'm about to say is going to give you massive freedom. When you simply pull a person out of that trauma and have them witness it as the viewer instead of being there as the experiencer, it turns off the circuit in the brain that continues to re-traumatize them over and over. And the way you can do this, first of all, is if this were to happen on a call, you would say, okay, just pay attention to your breath, breathe in through your belly as if you're blowing up a balloon, and let out a nice, long exhale. You can do what Andrew Huberman teaches as the physiological sigh. And if you all want to try this with me right now, it's a double inhale through the nose, a deep double inhale through the nose, and then a long exhale out the mouth. It sounds like this. And that immediately offloads cortisol, adrenaline, those stress hormones that would cause a panic attack, and allows a person to step into peace. And it can be that easy to take someone out of an abreaction. If you have them adjust their body language, okay, look up, lift your head up, imagine that there's a magic string pulling you from the top of your head, and it's allowing the rest of your body just to relax and your bones to align. Take that physiological sigh and just think to yourself, I am here. So first you get them to adjust their 3 Bs, their body language, their breathing, and their belief. And belief is just the thing we're saying to ourselves over and over. And it can be as simple as I am here, because 2 things can't occupy the same space at the same time. I wasn't planning to talk about this, but maybe someone needs to hear this. So if you're saying I am here, you don't think you're in the past in that terrible event that happened a long time ago. And just that immediate coping mechanism can help a person release trauma as they reprogram their unconscious mind to stop re-triggering that trauma over and over, because you're safe now. And then from that place, if you just imagine that you could see that trauma out there and you see yourself in it. So if you were to imagine that that traumatic scene is on a TV screen, and that TV screen is way out in the distance and it's kind of down low, and you see that younger you in that scene, that immediately sends a signal to the brain that this is not happening anymore. You don't have to keep going into that scene over and over. And it's incredibly empowering. I talk about this more when I taught I don't think I've actually presented this. So let me know if you want me to teach this. I teach this when I taught the re-imprinting protocol, which is an NLP protocol that I learned from Melissa Tiers, and she has given me her blessing to teach it here as well. I recently taught that on in my workshops at work group or Transy Tuesdays. I can't remember which, but if you want me to teach you in Clubhouse or on YouTube, email me at Lori@trancypants.com and I'll teach it in an upcoming room. That's LORI@trancypants.com. Okay. The last question that I get when people talk about Zoom sessions, and this is one I get kind of worked up about, is how do you help people on a group call when every single person there has a different problem, even if they're all there for, like, let's say, for anxiety. They all experience anxiety in different ways. They all became anxious for different reasons. They all do anxiety in a different way. Every person there has their own story. How do you help someone on a group call when everybody there can't tell the story? And here is my belief about why hypnosis works when it works. And so if you don't believe this, then this might not be valuable to you. But based on what I have learned from the best of the best, when a person experiences a transformation, whether it's a one-on-one session, a group session, whether they're reading a book and something in that book gives them transformation, when they experience that transformation, it's because something was unlocked in their internal resources. Their unconscious mind got the aha moment. Oh, it's okay to let this go. It's okay to change. And it's not necessarily anything that you're consciously, I don't think that we are smart enough to understand what this person's unconscious mind needs. I think it's arrogance on our part to diagnose and to say, oh, well, this happened because of this past event, because your conscious mind and their conscious mind might both be mistaken about why they do what they do. You know, we think we know why we're screwed up, but we don't. It could have been something that we heard or saw or experienced when we were 6 months old, and our unconscious mind crossed some signals in strange ways, and now we have this problem that we struggle with. And for me, this is really liberating because it helps me know I don't have to be this mad scientist and figure out exactly what's going on. This is why intention is so important. And when you set an intention to guide this person to freedom, and that person sets an intention and understands the kind of freedom they want, which I talk about in the group. There, I have a YouTube video called "Why It Works When It Works" or something like that. I need to just pull my YouTube channel up so I know, but I talk about this in more depth on another call. They need to clearly understand the problem they're ready to be free of and the solution they want to experience. They need to think about what life is going to look like when they're free. And when they do that, you can guide a person through any kind of protocol on a group session with the intention of freedom. And by telling them you're going to be free of this afterwards, I actually think we serve people best when we make big, bold promises, because if we're in rapport with them and they trust us, they're going to be so much more likely to get that change that they seek. And it doesn't come from us. We're not the ones doing it. Our fancy protocol isn't the thing that does it. The thing that does it is the intention, and you just creating a safe place where the unconscious mind understands it's safe to let this go. I hope this is helpful. So what I'm going to do, I will end this YouTube video and I'll stay in Clubhouse for a moment. So if anyone wants to raise your hand and come up on stage and ask questions, this is a really safe place to do this. And if you want to click that little paper airplane on the side and write a question in the comments, let me know. If you have a question here on YouTube As of the time that I'm recording this, I'm really good about coming in and checking comments. Since my channel is about to go viral, that I might not be able to do that always into the future. So that's my disclaimer. But if you ask me a question in the comments beneath this video, I will come in and answer it if my channel hasn't gone viral yet. Have an amazing day. Thank you so much for being here. Please email me anytime if you want to request upcoming topics, and I will see you soon, my YouTube friends.